and we rehearsed for like, I'm gonna say like 3 months. We rehearsed a lot for
Wow.
that tour. Yeah, Gary would pick me up in his Jeep every day and we'd go to rehearsal and, yeah. I mean, it was interesting. I was never a Gary Numan fan. But I thought it would be interesting, and I'd never toured the States either. I'd done a few gigs here and there. I'd performed quite a bit in LA, and Japan played in LA, San Francisco, Boston, and New York, and then in the band I was in. Well, that was after that actually, but I have played in like the East Coast. I've done the East Coast stuff, and I've done Toronto, and that's about it.
Ooh.
So I was interested in doing a tour of the States, and seeing
Sure.
a lot. Seeing
Good
a lot
for you,
more.
man. You have a good time?
Huh?
You had a good time?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah. It was yeah, I mean some places were great. I mean, in New Orleans we played on a Mississippi riverboat that went up and down the Mississippi while we were playing. I mean, it was a huge concert hall, I mean it probably held 1,000 people or something. But that was kind of, and I'd always wanted to go to New Orleans, and it was very eye-opening.
You play with Sinead O'Connor as well, right? That unfortunately she passed away recently, unfortunately.
Yeah. That was a great time in my life playing with Sinead.
Really? Yeah.
I mean, we rehearsed for because it was basically her debut. So the record company, Ensign Records, they wanted to ensure that everything was in place by the time, she was released. And so we rehearsed and wrote the band as a whole. We all I think it was like 10 months, working on songs. I mean, at times we had rehearsal studios booked for a month at a time, and we would go in every day. And if things weren't working, Sinead would say, "Oh well, let's just come back tomorrow." And other days we'd work really hard and get a lot done. And it was a great time. It was a very productive time. She was an absolute joy to work with. I have no negative things to say about Sinead.
I saw her only once about 5 years ago in a small place called the Vicksburg here in Virginia. And, it was a great show, but I knew that the way that she was speaking and telling a story, that it was other things were affecting her psychologically. Who am I to criticize people? But I can tell right away that
Yeah. Well, I mean, in those early days, there was none of that. I mean, it was all very organic and
good. Yeah.
Very positive. She was incredibly positive at that time.
Yeah.
And it was a joy to work with her. We did. I only did one live show with it. Well, two really, but we did one live show on the eve of the release of the Joshua Tree. U2 and Sinead, we did a gig in Belfast for the show The Old Grey Whistle Test.
Yeah,
was being filmed, and I mean, we only played like 2 songs, but that was like our live debut, really, or her live debut, really.
Yeah.
Which was great. It's a good show. I'd never been to Belfast, so that was nice.
It's good for you, man. Yeah. Good for you.
But yeah, working with Sinead was a complete joy. I loved being around her. And yes, it was all positivity and
yeah. She was an outstanding musician. Yeah. And
was. Did you see the documentary?
I saw one part in YouTube, and I don't know another platform, I don't remember. And and I read a lot of comment given by different musicians as if she was asking, I don't know if that's correct to say it, but like she was asking for help in the last 5-6 years. And
Yeah.
I think the son, I don't know the name of the kid, but committed suicide, and
Yeah,
she got into a couple of trouble with the Catholic Church, and I don't even know. I just
well, you should see the documentary though.
yeah, maybe I should check it out. Yeah, what it tells. Yeah,
really excellent. And it really shows how far ahead of everything she was.
Oh yeah,
mentally. With the whole Catholic Church and everything. I mean, it may have ruined her career, but that independence paved the way for so many other artists. And I think only now people are realizing just how important she was.
Absolutely, no, absolutely, yeah. I try to see when I see shows, and I read up on an artist, and I take an artist for who they are, artistically, independent of what they have say or the thing they have done, whatever, Like I saw recently, I went to see a couple weeks ago, I saw Madonna. Unbelievable show. And I know she has done a lot of crazy stuff, marriage, drugs, and this or that, operation, whatever it is. Who I am to be. I don't worry about stuff. I went to see a show, it was a great show. A lot of, back playing, no instrument, but it was great.
I was a big fan of Madonna in the late 90s, early 2000s. I love the Ray of Light album. I think it's
and the show was very polished, very well researched. There were like 30, 40 people there on the stage, and everything was synchronized. Very well researched, very well run. It's a lot of they move. They introduce some stuff, some cages in a scenario. They need to tear them down. Some fire. They walk to the other side, and while the other people on the left side were putting the equipment together, and people changing clothes every 3 songs. I mean, it was very well run. It's very difficult to put together,
Oh, sure.
And of course, she did all the hits from the 80s and 90s, and she was very popular, So still she is, they play in the Capital One, which is the biggest venue here, where the Fleetwood Mac would play, or the Genesis would play, or Peter Gabriel would play, and it was packed. It was.
I wouldn't expect anything else. I mean, I mean, at a certain level, the show has to be like spectacular.
Yeah, and usually the shows here, even Genesis, right? When I saw Genesis last time, they play for 8:30 to 10:30. She started the show at 10:30.
10:30.
10. Because it's Madonna. The ticket will say 8:00, right? But of course I knew that she would start at 8:00. So there was a DJ from 8:20 to 10 o'clock.
Wow.
Then they removed the booth where the DJ was there, and then she showed up at 10:30.
How long did she play for?
12:45.
Wow.
With 2.5 hours or something.
And that's probably, she probably got fined for that, right? Because I mean, the venue is probably, I mean, there's a reason that on the tickets it says the show starts at 8 o'clock. It's because they want people out of there by 11, right? Or something
Yeah,
like
and a lot of people don't drive there to DC. They need to take the metro. So I think some band need to pay an amount for people for the metro to stay late at night because she played 2 nights in a row, like on a Monday and Tuesday.
But both at 10:30.
Both at 10:30, yeah.
Great.
In New York, and then she was coming from Boston. She was coming from New York, and then the show in New York was like either 10:20 or 10:40 or whatever. And that's the way she's Madonna. She can do whatever she wants.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But independent of that, of course, it was a weekday for me. I was sleepy and I drink coffee, but I have a great time. The show is very good. So I'm happy that I saw her.
I would like to see Madonna, but I would have liked to seen her in like 1999 or something.
Yeah,
that would have been my time. She's, I mean, the 2010s onwards to me musically, nah,
it's not the same. Yeah,
I don't really like what she's doing, but I do like Ray of Light music, that period. There's some really good stuff in that period.
Yeah,
I like some of the older stuff, the stuff she did with Prince. I loved.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Before that, you were in a obscure, unknown band called Japan. No, I'm joking. It's no unknown, but you guys you participated in four records. The first is Adolescent Sex, Obscure Alternative. Let me check the date. So one is Adolescent Sex 78, and then Obscure Alternative as well 78. Those. What memory do you have for? Because in my opinion, they're very different from the other two.
Well, the thing is,
from the Gentleman Take Polaroids.
Apart from demos, I mean, the experience of being in a studio for a young band is just amazing. I mean, you can't believe you're there, kind of thing, really.
Sure.
And so you just, you're sort of on cloud nine the entire time, really. You don't really know what you're doing half the time, but it's only in hindsight you realize the mistakes you made and the things you could have done better. But, musicians should never be satisfied with something they've done.
Always room for improvement. But you guys were like 21 years old, 22.
Yeah, I was the oldest by 2 years, but yeah, I mean, Steve was only like 19, something like that.
Yeah, of course, David Sylvian, Mick Karn, Steve Jansen, and Richard Barbieri. The other four guys knew one another before you joined the band?
They went to school together. Well, of course, Steve and Dave were brothers, but they went to school together.
I got it.
And so they were friends from school, and they formed a band. And I actually answered an ad in Melody Maker.
At the time was a very famous.
Which is really odd because I lived in northeast London and they lived in southeast London, which is a long way away, and to get to where they were and to rehearse and stuff, I had to get a bus and a train and another train and and I don't really know why I did it other than I believed in what we were doing, I guess.
So you respond to that? They say, okay, we'll check you out next week, whatever.
I think I was the first person they saw, and they just said, "No, we don't need anybody else."
Yeah,
that was it.
Good for you. Yeah, good for you. Some people have said
I was impressed because they had their own PA. I mean, I'd play with, you know, like up and coming small little bands, you know, not much, but everything I'd done, nobody had their own PA. Japan not only had their own PA, they had a minivan with that they could drive around in, you know. So I was very impressed that they had that together. And you know, at that point, they had tons of songs. Like
written before you show up, right? Before you
just like, you know, David would write, you know, a few songs a week. I mean, they just kept coming. And we weren't playing live so much, you know, because you couldn't get that many gigs. But we did play, you know, a few pubs and stuff around that time, and yeah.
But any of them came from a family with money, because, you know, getting a band, getting the PA, or was it a stipend from the record label all the time that they liked what they saw, and they say, here's
this was before
money.
This was before that. I don't know exactly. Well, Richard was working, and so was Mick at that time.
Yeah.
Like when I joined, they both had jobs.
Right.
I think Dave was on the dole, I think, and Steve was still at school. But yeah, maybe they borrowed money off their parents. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe probably Mick got some money from his mum and dad, and you know.
Yeah. But it's still, you know, 20 years old was unusual for a bunch of 20-year-old kids to have a PA and a band, and
yeah, it was kind of impressive, you know.
So you say, man, I want to be here. I want to be a part of the.
Well, and also they had their own material, which is always, you know, impressive.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, I mean, in those days, it was very exciting, and I don't think any of us had any doubt we were going to get a record deal, and you know,
really.
I mean, yeah, I don't think we had any doubt at all.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
The time was going to come, you know, and it was just a matter of when. That's how bands should be, you know. They should
believe in themselves. Absolutely, right.
They have to have that positivity about themselves, and Japan definitely had that.
I always feel that Japan was a very unusual group, in the sense that very underrated. They were, all of you, you know, were unbelievable musicians, you know.
Yeah.
You know, Mick Karn, yourself, and obviously David Sylvian, Steve Hampton, Richard Barbieri, and they were very good, very, very good, you know, as individuals, you know, and then putting a band together, you know, playing together, and as it's always difficult. I read that somewhere that, looking in retrospective, you know, they should have not, you know, put out there the first two albums, because they're very different from the last two, which are Quiet Life and, of course, Gentleman Take Polaroid, right? Which are, in my opinion, that's my opinion, those are more mature, much better albums.
Yeah, well, the band, you know, was finding its feet.
Exactly, right, yeah.
You know, and it, you know, it's a learning process. Actually, when you think of it, I mean, it was pretty fast metamorphosis, you know, 78 to 80, basically, 81. You know, it's like less than 3 years between the four albums. But it was also down to what we were listening to. You know, we were listening to more interesting electronic stuff. I mean, obviously Roxy Music were an influence on the band.
Yeah.
Even in the early days, you know, I mean, we were all fans of Roxy Music.
Yeah.
And we were all fans of Brian Eno, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, and so that, and fans of Fripp, and, you know, I mean, so it was a logical progression to move more in that
It's
direction.
more in synth-wise, right? And obviously,
We also have,
obviously that
you know, like,
most of the band
love
influence
Iggy
one
Pop
another, right?
and-
Yeah.
Huh?
Most of the bands listen to one another and have influence on one another. At the time, David Bowie was popular, then became Duran Duran, and then Roxy Music, and then Susie and the Banshees, and a lot of great bands. They start playing more in the keyboards, and the last two albums, the ones that I just show, are more keyboard intensive, if I could say that. And
Yeah, I mean, the one interesting factor,
yeah,
certainly around the time of the first album, was that, you know, it was the evolution of punk,
mhm.
you know, so you couldn't really ignore it, you know. It was part of the live scene, a very strong part of the live scene, you know. The Damned, well, Susie and the Banshees, early Susie and the Banshees, and then you had like Patti Smith, you
Yeah.
know, Blondie, Television, you know. I mean, there was all this new blood coming in, and I think you hear those influences on those two albums.
Yeah.
And you couldn't really get away from them. So that it was logical that they would have those influences. But of course, by the time you get to like Quiet Life, that had passed.
Mm.
So those influences were behind you.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those bands still existed, like Susie and the Banshees, and, you know, Magazine, who was my absolute favorite band at that time. But the actual attitude had changed. You know, the punk attitude wasn't there anymore. It had become far more sophisticated.
I see.
So logically, the music that we were playing was more sophisticated.
And I imagine that, you know, for bands break up for different reasons, but I suppose is, you know, marriage sometimes is difficult for a husband and wife or whatever, and a bunch of kids, you know, playing together, living together, and taking the pain. The first 4 or 5 years in a row, maybe it's complicated, you know.
Very hard.
It's normal, you know.
I don't know how any band survives it, to be honest. You know, you have to really put a lot of things away mentally to keep a band going.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as you say, it's a relationship, and you know, sometimes it's a 24/7 relationship for months at a time.
All the time, and you need to take the same bath, live in the same place, and a girlfriend, a new guy, problems, you know, greedy and personalities. And
Yeah,
so are human beings. People don't understand why I don't know, Genesis break up at the beginning, why people left, or the Led Zeppelin guy, or the Pink Floyd guy. It's like a marriage. Sometimes things
it is a marriage.
It will not work. I mean, you know.
And there is a, you know,
Yeah.
there is like a certificate basically, which, yeah, it's like, you know, if you have a recording contract, that's as good as a marriage certificate, a wedding certificate.
That's right. Yeah. And then you end up living or whatever, and then they became successful with the teen drum, right? That was there was a difference between the year that you end up living and when this guy appeared in the market. That became successful. And then a year after they disappear. So it would have made a difference if you have stayed there.
I wasn't at all surprised that they split up. I mean, you know, it was just there was obviously going to be a separation.
You saw that coming, right? So way before that, right?
I think everybody did. Yeah.
Very underrated band, very good band, very different band. So I like it. As I say, I like And of course, David Sylvian did very well for himself. His brother, he played drum in other bands. He have toured. He have released a lot of record. And Richard Barbieri playing with Steven Wilson, Porcupine Tree have done well. And then Mick Karn, unfortunately, passed away recently. No, not recently, but unfortunately he passed away too. Not that recently, but unfortunately he passed away. Too early in life, I think. He was a very good guy, very good, very excellent. As I said before, I'm repeating myself. Each one of you were excellent musicians. And maybe in a different times, you have stayed together maybe longer, and could have been one of the best band of all time in Japan.
Yeah. But I appreciate that the legacy of the band is a positive one.
Oh, absolutely.
As far as the audiences are concerned, I think the band have thought of positively, and that's all you can ask for, really, when you're talking about something that was 40 odd years ago.
I'm quite sure that people all over the world still buying Japan CDs or buying or memorabilia or whatever. I appreciate Japan. I have appreciated Japan more later on in my life than I was at the time. Well, at the time when I was in 1980s, of course I didn't have any money. I was going to school. But it was a very good band. I really liked the band, man. I think people over the world maybe appreciate the band in the last 2 years, the last 10 years than maybe before that, right?
Yeah, I think certainly with musicians anyway, I think musicians appreciated what we did, which is all you can hope for, really,
Should be are you proud? All the that you were part of there and all the stuff you have done,
Yes, but it's
I know you're very humble and quiet guy, but for me, telling you, Claudio telling Ralph that it was one of the best band of all time.
No, I'm proud of it. But it's not the most important thing in my life.
No. You seem happy now, happier.
No, I am.
With living in Costa Rica, doing your look at the birds and having peace in your life and
the
sunshine, not arguing with people, don't take in baths or crazy deadlines or fighting with record labels. It's good for you, man. Good for you, but you don't when you're drawing and birds and you're going to tour, you don't get flashbacks of the past. No. Like a nightmare, maybe.
I mean, people, sometimes say to me, "You should write a book." I couldn't think of anything I'd want to do less than write a book about, my story.
Write another book about birds, but not about.
Well, not write. I can only paint them. I can't really write them. But yeah, I mean that to me, reading about myself in publications and stuff, it's a nightmare for me.
Good for you, man.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll get together one day for dinner or a beer or wine or whatever.
Yeah, either here or there.
Or here and there. I need to convince my wife. I always want to go to Costa Rica because I like nature as well, like you do.
Yeah.
And my son last year we went to, well, we had lucky that we travel different place. Iceland is very, very beautiful. Iceland is another world altogether. It's another world.
Yeah. I'm
very nice.
I would like to go there one day. It's not, but my main places to go are like other places in Latin America that I haven't been to.
You gotta go to Chile and Argentina.
Yeah, I need to go to Chile and Argentina. I haven't been to like Uruguay or Paraguay or Suriname. I'd like to go to Suriname.
Yeah, yeah.
Lots
And
of lots of good birds in Suriname.
yeah, good for you. Well,
I've
you
been to
seem happy.
I've been to Venezuela. I've been to Colombia, and
Yeah.
I've been
You
to
like
Ecuador.
Colombia? You like
Yeah,
Colombia?
I loved it. I loved it. Absolutely
Yeah.
loved it. Yeah, I
Well,
had a great time. Yeah, it
yeah.
was
Yeah.
I'd like to.
Hopefully we'll get together soon. You
Yeah,
know, if you come here, you have a place to stay, good food and good wine, good beer, whatever you want, and good music in the background. So,
all right.
and I hope to see you there, meet you one day personally. And you're a great guy. You're a good personality, humble, quiet guy, and you were part of the one of the best band in the history of music. So it's an honor for me to talk to you, Rob. And
Okay,
we'll chain email. Maybe next time we talk about different movies and books and stuff like that. Because I know
I,
you're going
I,
to see a movie
I can talk about movies for
for hours
hours,
and hours. Yeah.
hours and hours.
Or soundtracks. I have a big collection of soundtracks as well. So we go.
Yeah, I don't really. Soundtracks is interesting, but to me, it's if a memorable soundtrack isn't really doing its job, is it?
It should always be in the background.
Yeah, it should be an integral part of it, but it shouldn't necessarily be apart from it.
Yeah. What's the best movie you ever seen in your life? Only the best one.
The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie.
Wow.
Have you seen it?
Oh, a while ago. A
Maurice
long time.
Buñuel is my favorite director.
Yeah.
I just love that he plays with you. You know, I love movies that play with you, that tease you, that surprise you, that take you somewhere you weren't expecting. I love that.
Do you like movies from Herzog, the German guy?
Who? Oh, Herzog.
Werner Herzog?
Yeah, you know, I've only seen a couple of his movies. I haven't really
Yeah.
delved into Werner Herzog for some reason. I don't really know why, because I've you know, I love a lot of international movies. Japanese movies and
Yeah.
French movies.
Mhm.
A lot of
course, Peter Weir. Peter Weir.
He's good.
Yeah, he's very good. Some of the movies are very good.
Excellent. Yeah.
Now, maybe that's what we need to create, like a podcast and talk about movies.
Yeah, I can.
You pick a movie, then I pick a movie, and we discuss it and we talk about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Robert. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Have a good afternoon there, and we'll see you very soon, man.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Robert. Thank you.